In question time today, the Australian Prime Minister found himself under fierce pressure after being challenged by the opposition. What started as a straightforward inquiry quickly escalated into a heated clash that exposed deep divisions inside Parliament. The key moment came when the member for Page asked about Australia's strained relationships with Israel and the United States, two of our most critical partners. The question seemed simple, but the timing was brutal. Sitting in the chamber that day was a United States congressperson, watching everything unfold in real time. The atmosphere turned tense immediately. The Prime Minister rose to his feet, visibly irritated. Instead of calmly addressing the question, he fired back at the opposition. He said it was extraordinary for the shadow minister to even raise the issue, especially in front of a visiting American lawmaker. His tone was sharp, his words cutting. What could have been a moment of reassurance for the Australian public quickly spiraled into an argument about politics, intelligence matters, and the handling of sensitive alliances. The PM's frustration was obvious, and it set the stage for a fiery back and forth that gripped the chamber. At the heart of the question was something simple: Australia's relationship with two key allies, Israel and the United States. These are not minor partners. They are nations that play a direct role in our security, our diplomacy, and our global standing. Yet the Prime Minister didn't answer directly. Instead, he shifted focus, pointing to the Deputy Prime Minister's earlier comments, stressing that serious issues are dealt with responsibly. To many listening, though, this felt like a sidestep. The opposition wanted a clear answer. Viewers at home wanted clarity. But clarity was not what they received. Things became even more heated when the Prime Minister referenced intelligence matters. He reminded the chamber that sensitive information from defense and security agencies isn't something that can be shared publicly. He quoted a former Intelligence Committee head who, just that morning, had argued against revealing such details. While technically correct, this explanation sounded evasive. People watching could sense the growing frustration. Was the Prime Minister protecting Australia's interests? Or was he dodging accountability? The opposition seized on this uncertainty, pressing harder. And that's when the situation spiraled into a scene of pure political theater. The opposition benches erupted. Laughter, interjections, and calls of relevance rang across the chamber. The Speaker was forced to intervene, demanding that the Prime Minister stay on topic. It was no longer just about Israel or the United States. It was about whether the Prime Minister was willing, or able, to answer a straight question. Even the Speaker grew frustrated, warning that this wasn't lecture time or commentary time. For a government already facing questions about its foreign policy, the Prime Minister's evasive style gave the opposition more ammunition than they could have hoped for. At that point, the Speaker reminded the Prime Minister of the actual question: Australia's deteriorating relationships with Israel and the United States. With the spotlight fixed firmly back on him, the Prime Minister tried to regain his footing. He shifted his tone, describing the United States relationship as being above partisan politics. He recalled his time as opposition leader, when he was called in by then Prime Minister Scott Morrison to discuss major security arrangements. By raising this story, he wanted to show that he had always acted responsibly. But to some ears, it still sounded defensive. The Prime Minister went into detail about that moment. He said he had only 24 hours' notice to attend a confidential meeting with defense and intelligence agencies. There, he was briefed on major security proposals, which included the controversial AUKUS arrangements. He stressed that he kept those details in strict confidence, as any responsible leader would. He claimed that, after the announcement, he quickly convened his shadow cabinet, then held a full caucus meeting to secure support. This, he said, proved his commitment to bipartisanship. But in Parliament, the opposition looked unconvinced. Their faces told the story. It was clear that the Prime Minister wanted to paint himself as a steady hand during uncertain times. He highlighted how, even in opposition, he had acted in the national interest. His message was simple: the United States is our most important partner, and its relationship with Australia transcends party politics. But the way he delivered it, with flashes of anger, long detours, and constant defensiveness, risked overshadowing his point. The opposition's strategy had worked. By asking a tricky but simple question in front of a U.S. guest, they had drawn out a raw, frustrated response. For viewers at home, this was politics at its most revealing. On one hand, a prime minister determined to show he takes foreign relations seriously. On the other, a government that looked rattled and reactive. The opposition's question wasn't just about foreign policy. It was about competence. Could this prime minister handle pressure? Could he maintain composure when put on the spot? The fact that the question was asked in front of an American guest raised the stakes dramatically. It turned a routine exchange into an international embarrassment, at least in the eyes of his critics. The Prime Minister's focus on the United States also raised another question. What about Israel? The original inquiry was about both countries, but the Prime Minister spoke almost entirely about America. Israel, one of Australia's significant partners in security and intelligence sharing, was barely mentioned. That silence did not go unnoticed. It left the opposition free to argue that the Prime Minister was unwilling to confront tougher aspects of foreign policy. For many Australians, who already sense uncertainty in global affairs, the lack of a direct response on Israel may feel like a missed opportunity. The Speaker's intervention earlier in the session showed just how tense things had become. Reminding the Prime Minister to be directly relevant was a public signal that even the chair felt the answer was drifting. For a leader, this is never a good look. It creates the impression of evasion, even when the explanation might be justified. Parliament is a theatre, and today, the Prime Minister found himself on the back foot. Every hesitation, every diversion, every flash of temper became part of the performance, and the opposition made sure the audience didn't miss a moment. Inside the chamber, the opposition benches were buzzing with energy. They knew they had landed a blow. The shadow minister had asked the right question, at the right time, in the right setting. By tying it to the presence of a U.S. congressperson, they ensured that any sign of weakness would be amplified. This wasn't just a domestic audience anymore. The world was watching. And the Prime Minister's angry response, instead of calming the waters, only added fuel to the fire. In politics, perception often matters more than policy. And today, perception was damaging.